Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome here to the Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. A little bit tired today. Middle of the week, we'll do that, right? Anyways, we're here. It's Wednesday night. It's time for an episode of Wednesday Night Favorites. Chose a topic a little bit different than some of the other shows. I got a whole whack of topics now that I've been kind of working through. And this one, thought, you know what, I'm going to do this one now. I wasn't sure at first that I knew I had enough liking of enough different genres to do something like this, but I decided that once I put it together, it became clear I had plenty. So the topic for tonight is my 10 favorite rock music genres, if that's the best way I can think of putting it. I've selected at least one album for each genre just to try to give you an understanding of where I am with that genre, where I think of it as being. And some of the top three or four, I gave you a couple just so, because those are my favorite ones, easier enough to find. So we're going to do this in the order we've always do these kind of top 10 things, top 5 or top 25 whenever we're rating something. I usually go from my least favorite of the genres. Well, I will be going from my least favorite of the genres to my most favorite, or worst to first if you prefer. Just remember that these are just my own personal feelings about these genres. That doesn't mean that that genre is better than this genre or whatever. It's not about being better. It's about my own preference. You can have your own preference. If you want to put your top 10 in the comment section below at the end, you're welcome to do so. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to start. I'm going to need my glasses for this because I wrote the list here and I have my stack here to go. Okay, so number 10 will be the rock and roll genre, which I call the kind of 50-ish style music. I'm not talking about the 1950s music. There's lots of that out there. I could have put that in there. That was a genre that I wanted to thought about including as well, but I thought I like this one just a little bit more, so it's going to come in at number 10, the rock and roll style, 50 style. There are some bands that do this style. Rolling Stones is a band that does a style, but I chose this record to represent it. AC/DC, very rock and roll band. True to form, AC/DC keeps that 1950s style rock and roll alive, but adding some elements of hard rock to it, but definitely a 50-ish style. Another band that I think fits this genre is Cheap Trick. Okay, next up, number 9. This is my pop rock. So for pop rock, we could have went with a number of artists, but I chose to use this album because I think it encapsulates what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking of this. Lots of poppy, really. To me, pop rock is the very commercial stuff you get on the radio. It's not too heavy. I could have used I can't think of his name. I could have used Barry Manilow for one thing, right? Or I can't think of his name, but I chose Phil Collins here because I think he represents it. There's a lot of hits on this album too. Sussudio, where is it? I'm looking for it. I don't see it. I can't find it. Oh well. Anyways, pop rock at its best, I think, among his best. This was definitely a pop rock giant album too as well. Next up, we have the psychedelic rock genre, and I chose what I consider to be one of the most psychedelic bands, Jefferson Airplane. But there's other stuff. Atomic Rooster has that feeling to their music as well. Ozric Tentacles, if you like the more modern stuff, definitely fit into that category. There's quite a few bands that fit into this category, but it has that kind of spacey feel, but also very psychedelic. Weird lyrics tend to be a little bit on the weird lyric side. The music is got a little bit of that folky flavor to it as well, but like the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's, that'd be a great example of psychedelic rock as well. Next up, we have number 7, which is doom metal. This is a category that I've only recently started to explore in depth This album, I think, represents it as well as any. Black Sabbath here, they're doom metal. There's some other bands out there. Cathedral is a band that I have an album from that I'm starting to explore, and lots of different new bands that play this metal. I really like this genre of metal, and yeah, I just think it's great, and I'm really looking forward to exploring it a lot more. I did recently watch the Sea of Tranquility when Pete Pardo, tongue-tied, was talking about several albums that you must have if you are a doom metal fan, and I wrote them all down. I'm trying to listen to them all and get into it because I really like that genre a lot. The next one up, very different from the doom metal. We're going into number 6 here, folk rock, which includes, these guys to me are the prime example of it. You could go with Paul Simon's solo or with Art Garfunkel's solo stuff too. You could, the Canadian artist, God, I can't think of her name, but my brain just doesn't work when after work. Sometimes I just want to shut right down after dealing with people all day. But yeah, some really good stuff here. Best example of it, I think. There's other stuff too that is a little bit. Some bands have a little bit of that in their music. Neil Young has some of that in his music. Steely Dan a little bit in their music. Well, Steely Dan a little bit of everything in their music, really. Next up, we have in the number 5 spot is a classical prog rock, and you're wondering what is that? Well, here's a prime example of that. King Henry, 6 Wives of King Henry VIII from Rick Wakeman, very classically oriented prog rock. You also have bands like Griffin, very classically oriented prog rock. These are bands that their music is progressive, but at the same time they have that classical base for their music. You might even say Yes would be classified as that as well, and I wouldn't argue with you there. Next up, my where are we here? Number 4, space rock. So I chose 2 for this. For the last 4 categories, I chose 2 for because there's so many bands that I like in this category. So you've got Hawkwind, and you've got Eloy. You could throw in some Ozric Tentacles there as well. You could throw in some Pink Floyd. These are all space rock bands to me and to my way of thinking. I really like this genre. I have a lot of these kind of albums, and it's probably the genre that I discovered. It's probably the biggest genre that I discovered on doing this channel that I was motivated to get into. So they're my number 4, space rock. Number 3, hard rock. I chose the 2 bands that had the biggest impact on me from that genre. BTO was kind of my first real rock band, and then Kiss, the most dominant band early on for me. Both these are, to me, hard rock bands. Yeah, they have some pop in there. Kiss actually has a little bit of that 1950 style on a couple of their albums as well. They've done all kinds of different styles, but basically I think of them as a hard rock band. Same with BTO. They have a little bit of that blues element, a little jazz element to their music as well. Hard rock, definitely a big genre for them. So those are my 2 examples of hard rock. Next up is heavy metal. Heavy metal, number 2 on my list. So I chose, to me, the 2 first bands I thought of when I thought of heavy metal. Judas Priest, Iron Maiden. Love them both. Very metalish. Judas Priest a little bit different than Iron Maiden. Their music's a little bit more choppy, a little old-fashioned type of hard, heavy metal. One of the first metal bands, if maybe not the first metal band, I don't know. And a little bit more of that speed metal element going on here in Iron Maiden, but I'd still say that they are definitely the poster child for heavy metal. So that's my number 2. Number 1, of course, wasn't going to be surprise to anybody. It's progressive rock, and I could have used a bunch of different groups to cover that. But I chose the 2 I think represent the genre the most, and that's Genesis and Yes. Some people would say Yes is the poster child for progressive rock. I will not disagree with that. They may be the best progressive rock of all time. Genesis is up there. You could put Rush in this category. You could put Pink Floyd in this category. But you'll get arguments from people about Rush and Pink Floyd. You will, for sure. You won't get as much of an argument with Yes and Genesis. ELP could be up here as well, but they're not one of my favorite bands, so I didn't choose them. But, Jethro Tull could be, but some people would argue that Jethro Tull is more folk-oriented, or they might argue that Rush is more metal-oriented, or they might argue that Pink Floyd is a whole bunch of other orientations. But to me, they're all progressive rock, and that's my style of music. That's the music I like the most. So I'm going to give them to you all back in a row from top to bottom. I'm not going to use the props this time, though. So progressive rock, number 1. Number 2, we're going to go with heavy metal. Number 3, hard rock. Number 4, space rock. Number 5, classical prog rock, bands like Griffin and so on. Number 6, folk rock. Number 7, doom metal. Number 8, psychedelic rock. Number 9, pop rock. And number 10, rock and roll 50-ish style type. I would call it later than 50s style 50s. Okay. So the big thing about all of these styles of music too is that some of them are interrelated. Obviously, space rock and prog rock and classical rock all fall under the progressive rock label. But I prefer progressive rock as a overall favorite. Then you've got things like doom metal and heavy metal. They can, you might want to classify them prog metal. You could classify them all under metal, but as things go on, you get more and more breakdown. These are just the ones that I like the best. Some other ones that I'm just going to mention. New Wave, of course, because we're doing the New Wave series for this month, is an honorable mention. Southern rock, some things like Leonard Skinner and 38 Special and even the Allman Brothers. Although I don't really follow the Allman Brothers, these are all kind of examples of Southern rock. Symphonic metal. Most of the kind of second wave of progressive rock that came out in the 80s, a lot of them are very symphonic rock, like IQ and Marillion and Pendragon and Palace and all those type of bands. And then you've got some newer ones too that definitely fall into that category. Symphonic metal, that would be bands like Queensryche or Dream Theater. Not as big a fan of that type of music as you would think I would be, considering I'm a Rush fan. But for some reason, I don't think of Rush as a progressive metal band. I just think of them as a prog band. So that's just me, though. And then I also like rhythm and blues, which is also an honorable mention here. There are some other ones, but those are the main honorable mentions. So I hope you've enjoyed this kind of take on my favorite genres. And if you have your favorite genres, you want to put them in the comment section, you can do that below in the comment section. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. That's much appreciated. We're getting close to the 1,000 subscription mark. It's kind of an exciting time for me. I've got some ideas of where I want to take this once I get there. And I'm going to be working on that hopefully over the course of the summer and be ready to kind of do some different stuff when it comes to the fall. Anyways, thanks for coming tonight and have yourself a good evening and goodbye.